Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and this is the second part to my understanding an Amazon listing. I don't know what to title this, but understanding a Amazon listing. And on the last video, I showed you all the different parts of an Amazon listing. And today we're gonna dive a little bit deeper and I'm going to explain what you should be looking for, some red flags and my thoughts and how to get a product listed on Amazon. So, whew, I think I had too much coffee before this. I've just been sitting here between celery juice and coffee, double fisting. I hope you're ready for this video. Sometimes I do feel like when I'm making a lot of content sitting down, I start getting a little fidgety. I'm just staring out the window and I'm gonna get it together is what I'm trying to say. Once again, Amazon.com is a fantastic tool to start with when you are talking about reselling and selling on Amazon. It is a little bit overlooked because there are so many fancy tools and extensions out there. When I got started selling on Amazon, I used Amazon. Amazon.com is where I went to research, and I still, step one, open up the listing on Amazon and start vetting it out and making sure it's the right product and right listing to sell on. If you are new and you don't have an account yet, or you're getting started and don't have any of the fancy research tools, use Amazon. You have the Amazon app already on your phone and you have Amazon probably on your desktop. So we're gonna look at the listing that I just referenced in the last video and break it down a little bit more. Okay, we are back to this listing and we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into not just the parts, the different parts of this listing, but things you need to watch out for when you're selecting the correct listing to jump on. Now, I like to sell grocery, I like to sell seasonal, and so that means sometimes I'm getting on a 2-pack, 3-pack, 4-pack, and just like more comes into play. Sometimes you have some random person creating listings and they don't do it right at all. And once you list on that listing, you are responsible for it. So you don't have to create the listing to be responsible. You are selling on it. And actually I've gotten restricted product claims, which is something sometimes like my first restricted product claim was on a wet wipe. And one of the ingredients in the wet wipe overnight became restricted on Amazon. I was not actively selling it. I had no inventory. It was at zero. But because it was listed in my catalog, I was responsible and I was hit with that claim. That all being said, once you add this item to your catalog, you are responsible for it. So before you just willy-nilly, I wonder where that willy-nilly came from. I'm going to research that before I keep saying that. Before you just add this to your catalog, it's good to vet it and make sure it's something you want to sell. So believe it or not, the title of a listing is important. I know certain brands can get really picky if their product is not displayed and presented accurately. Bath and Body Works, that's what I was thinking of, is one. I have heard they're very picky if they see something isn't spelled right or presented correctly. You are going to get an IP claim from Bath and Body Works. You also don't want to be on a listing that's full of spelling errors and it's confusing. And this is where somebody's going to start shopping. They're going to look at the title. So if it is immediately confusing to you, it's going to be confusing to the buyer. So that is step one. Now we have our listing open and I'm going to look at who is selling this product. Now, Amazon is in the buy box here. It's not always a bad thing. They only have 10, but I know a lot of sellers do not want to be on a listing where Amazon is dominating the buy box because Amazon does not play well with others. Now, if you can match their price, there is a bigger potential of you making sales in the buy box. But in general, if they are in stock, they're pretty much going to dominate. And you can really tell how often they come in and out of stock and how often they're sharing the buy box when you look at the Keep It chart. This will tell you the sellers over week, month, the life of the listing. But you can see here for the past week, it's been Amazon and Amazon. I always think this information is interesting. Sometimes you'll find one where Amazon is out of stock for a really long time, or sometimes you'll find a listing where there are no sellers at all. And in that case, the rank can go up a lot because people are not buying it. Just interesting things. Like this obviously had a little peak here. Okay, and we're back. Focus. So Amazon is in the buy box right now. There are other sellers, and I did do a little bit of research in this last video, and it is all merchant sellers. And I have Inventory Lab pulled up here, and I already have the listing up. This is Scoutify, which is attached to Inventory Lab, and I can put in my ASIN and it will break down the listing for me. I love this feature because it will show me between if I send an FBA to a warehouse, and I just put in my cost. I don't know if that's the actual cost, but I did have a thought because there are only merchant sellers on this listing that the fees might be a little bit high. And that's why people are only fulfilling this merchant. You can also toggle this over to merchant and see, obviously, this shipping is not correct. I don't know how anybody is making money on this product unless they're buying it on a deep discount clearance somewhere. But you can see the fees, you can see the history, and also the storage fees over time, which is something I really like about Scoutify and Inventory Lab. Coming back to the listing, I do think it's important to see who is selling on the listing for a couple of reasons. One, you already see Amazon is selling on this, and that is kind of a red flag for a lot of sellers. So that's one red flag. Two is if maybe Amazon wasn't selling on this listing, but there were several other big time sellers who had thousands of reviews and endless supplies. That would be another red flag because that means they're potentially never selling out, and I'm going to win less buy box time, less sales, and make less money because I'm competing against somebody who has a connection and is never out of stock. So that's another reason why I like looking at who is selling. Now here, I mean, obviously they have a bunch of ratings, but from what we can see, they only have 5 in stock. The other reason I like to look at sellers is to make sure the brand is not selling. Now, this is a product that I don't think you'd have an issue. There are brands that sell on Amazon, and they can be touchy when they are on a listing. Who else gets on that listing? And they can go a step further to verify that you are an authorized seller for that brand. And if you're not, and you only have an invoice and you only have receipts, but you don't have brand approval, they can kick you off the listing. And listen, just because Amazon approves you to sell on Amazon, that does not equal brand approval. And brands can even give you approval and change their mind. So a lot goes into play here. Now, so those are the big 3 reasons why I like to look at who is selling on the listing. I want to get on a listing that I can win the buy box. So for me, that means finding a product, a category, a listing that it's filled with it could be other FBA sellers or merchant sellers, but somebody who doesn't have an endless stock, and I could potentially win buy box time. I do like to look through the Keepa chart, see where this product price is heading. And if there is a downward trend, if there are more and more sellers getting on in the past month and the price is going down, another red flag. I probably at that point either want to list it merchant, and if it is profitable, get the product moving immediately, because there is this question mark if you were to get on a listing that's going down in price and more sellers, by the time you shipped in a box to a warehouse, it could be completely tanked out, which happens all the time on Amazon. So this is what I'm talking about when I say doing extra research on the listing and make sure you're making educated decisions and you're putting your money in places that will hopefully be profitable to you. Now, I want to talk about the brand categories, and this is obviously in grocery and gourmet food, but Amazon is cracking down on products that are listed in a generic category. Before we finish, I want to talk to you about another really important thing to watch out for on Amazon. In the past year, And like I said, anybody anywhere can create a listing on Amazon, and it doesn't mean it's done correctly at all. Doesn't mean it's been vetted, and Amazon has been doing a better job at taking down listings that are not correct, but they're also taking down their generic catalog. And for the last several years, when you have a product like Brock's Hearts and there's already a listing created for it, but maybe this year, instead of a 4-pack, the little individual boxes are in a 5-pack. So you need to create a new listing for it. It can be difficult sometimes to get a new listing up. What we would do, or say this year you want to do a multi-pack. So instead of just selling one 5-pack, you want to sell 2 5-packs. You would create that listing in a generic category because it was a little bit easier to get the listing live quickly. They are doing away with the generic catalog. And I think because it has been taken advantage of, people are just duplicating listings, which is against terms of service. There's only supposed to be one listing for each product, and they're cleaning it up. So misbranded is another big issue on Amazon. But talking about generic, they are taking down a lot of the generic listings, and the people who are actively selling on those listings are getting claims for selling on listings that have been misbranded. So it is important that you look and make sure it's categorized correctly on Amazon. The other thing is some brands are hard gated, which means you can sell grocery, but you can't sell Starbucks. You would have to get another invoice from Starbucks distributor and submit it to get ungated. Now, the thing with generic is, what if you created a bundle and it had some coffee cups from Walmart and Starbucks? You could almost get around that gating issue by putting the category in generic. That is also against terms of service, but people are doing that. People are listing products they're gated in. They're just putting it in a different category. This is another huge issue, as you can imagine, on Amazon, and Amazon is cleaning up their catalog. So when I say you need to make sure it's categorized correctly, you need to list something. If it's Starbucks, it should be categorized in Starbucks. And actually, I remember when I first got started selling, I didn't know any of this stuff, and I was gated in everything. So I had Tide. It was a discontinued Tide, and I noticed I could list it, and I couldn't list any other Tide products. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna list it. And that's a lot of times what people do. They don't look at, like, should I list this? Is this a good listing? Am I gonna get in trouble? Answer those questions. You just throw it up and just see. Well, the listing was live a couple weeks when I got a claim from Amazon because it was listed in a random category, and that is how most likely the other seller was also listing Tide because they were gated. But if you put it in a random generic category or something else, you could get it listed. So what I'm trying to say is it's important to understand that the listings have been created correctly and you are responsible when you jump on that listing. So making sure it's categorized, branded correctly. But generic used to be awesome. You create a listing, you'd have like a 2-pack of something, a multi-pack, and it was easy. You could get a listing up really fast, but it does seem at the end of like 2023 that they started cracking down on all of that. So I would not recommend jumping on any generic listings at all. When I started selling on Amazon, this is how I was researching. I would pull open Amazon and look on the Amazon desktop, look at the listing live. And even though I have research tools now to help me make better decisions, I still start the same way on Amazon. And I really like this method. I like teaching from this method because you have Amazon on your phone right now. So that means you could be doing this today. You don't have to sign up for anything extra. You could start vetting listings and looking like the stuff you use around your house, Starbucks, seasonal Starbucks, Valentine's, Easter, whatever holiday we're in while you're watching this. Get the candy out, get the Valentine cards out, scan it on Amazon and see what that listing is doing and see if there's potential money to be made. But the idea of this conversation is to say, ask questions. Just because you can sell on the listing, should you sell on the listing? And if you should be able to answer all those questions. Who are the other sellers? Who's my competition? What is the buy box doing over time? What is the sale price doing over time? Is there anything confusing that is going to be confusing to a buyer on the listing? Ask yourself those questions. Make sure you are clear with what you are listing and buying. And I think it's also putting yourself in the buyer's shoes and making sure that they understand what they're going to be getting. This can save you time, money, and heartache and refunds. Just answering these basic questions. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it gave you some more direction. Thank you for watching this. I'm sending you all my love. Bye.